My stepsister told her boyfriend she owns my house, then he showed up drunk demanding keys. Original post. I, 28F, never thought I'd be posting here, but the events of the last 3 weeks have left me questioning everything I thought I knew about my family. I need to get this all out, and I could use some outside perspective on whether I'm handling this correctly or if I've somehow become the villain in my own story. Let me start with some background. My mom married my stepdad, Richard, when I was 12. Richard has a daughter, Kara, 25F, from his previous marriage. For the first few years, Kara and I got along reasonably well. We weren't best friends, but we coexisted peacefully. That changed when we hit our teenage years. Kara developed what I can only describe as a competitive streak that bordered on obsessive. If I got something, she needed the same thing but better. If I achieved something, she would either minimize it or claim she could have done it too if she'd wanted to. Our parents enabled this behavior constantly. Keep the peace was their mantra. Be the bigger person was directed exclusively at me. I learned to gray rock before I even knew there was a term for it. I worked my way through college, earned my degree in radiologic technology, and spent the last 6 years building my career. I'm now a lead radiologic technologist at a major hospital in our city. I work hard, I save harder, and last year, I achieved my dream. I bought a townhouse. This townhouse is my pride and joy. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath unit in a quiet community with a small backyard and, this is relevant, a hot tub that the previous owners left behind. I've spent the last year making it mine. New furniture, fresh paint, a garden I'm cultivating. Every corner of this place represents years of sacrifice and discipline. Kara, meanwhile, has bounced between jobs, apartments, and relationships. She currently lives with our parents and works part-time at a boutique. I don't say this to be cruel, I genuinely don't care how she lives her life. What I do care about is what she's apparently been doing with mine. 3 weeks ago, I came home from a particularly brutal 12-hour shift to find things off. Nothing dramatic, just small things. A glass in the sink I didn't remember using. A throw blanket on the couch positioned differently than I'd left it. The hot tub cover slightly askew. I chalked it up to exhaustion and forgot about it. Then it happened again. And again. Food started disappearing from my fridge. A bottle of wine I'd been saving was half empty. My shampoo and conditioner were depleted faster than they should have been. I started to think I was losing my mind. That's when my neighbor, Dave, 60s, knocked on my door. Dave is the kind of neighbor everyone deserves but few people get. He's a retired contractor, keeps to himself mostly, but watches out for the whole street. He's the one who waters my plants when I'm working overtime. He's also the one with the most comprehensive security camera system I've ever seen. Hey, I wasn't sure if I should say something, Dave started, looking uncomfortable. But I've noticed some people coming and going from your place during the day when you're at work. Didn't recognize them. Figured you'd want to know. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, people? A young woman and a guy. They've been here maybe 4 or 5 times over the last couple weeks. They usually show up around noon, leave before 6. I must have looked as horrified as I felt because Dave immediately offered to share his camera footage with me. I went to his house that evening and watched 3 weeks of my life fall apart in high definition. There was Kara, my stepsister, walking up to my front door with a key I never gave her, and letting herself in with a man I'd never seen before. A tall guy, maybe late 20s, with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. They'd go inside, and hours later, they'd emerge, sometimes with wet hair, sometimes carrying what looked like leftovers from my fridge. One clip showed them in my backyard, in my hot tub, clearly having a great time. Another showed them leaving with a bottle of wine from my kitchen, the bottle I'd been saving for my birthday next month. But the worst clip was the most recent one. It showed them going upstairs. My bedroom is upstairs. My bed. My space. I called in sick the next day, the first time I've done that in 3 years, and went home to investigate. The evidence was everywhere once I knew what to look for. My bedroom sheets, which I'd washed on Sunday, had clearly been used. There was a long blonde hair on my pillow that wasn't mine. The bathroom smelled faintly of a cologne I don't own. My fancy body wash, the one I splurge on as a treat to myself, was nearly empty. I sat on my violated bed and cried for an hour. Then I got angry. Then I got strategic. Update 1. The confrontation, 3 days later. I spent the next 3 days preparing. I changed my locks immediately, investing in smart locks that I can monitor remotely. I installed my own security cameras, inside and out. I made copies of Dave's footage and saved them in 3 different locations. I documented everything, The missing food, the used toiletries, the state of my bedroom. Then I called a family dinner. My mom was thrilled. "It's so nice to have everyone together," she gushed as I walked in. Richard nodded approvingly. Kara was already there, scrolling through her phone with practiced disinterest. I waited until we were all seated, until the small talk had petered out, and then I struck. "Kara, who's your new boyfriend?" She looked up, surprised that I was initiating conversation. "His name's Tyler." "Why?" "Just curious. Have you told him much about yourself? Your job, your living situation, that kind of thing?" Something flickered in her eyes. "Wariness, I guess. Normal stuff. So he knows you live here with Mom and Richard?" The wariness intensified. "I mean, he knows I have family." I nodded slowly, keeping my voice measured. "Interesting. Because I've been having some issues at my townhouse lately. Things going missing, stuff being moved around. I was so confused until my neighbor showed me his security footage." The color drained from Kara's face. Our parents looked between us, confused. "I have hours of video showing you and Tyler entering my home without permission," I continued, pulling out my phone and placing it on the table. "Using my hot tub. Eating my food. Drinking my wine. Sleeping in my bed. 4 weeks." "Now wait just a minute," Richard started. "I'm not finished." I kept my eyes on Kara. "I need you to explain to me right now how you got a key to my house and why you thought any of this was acceptable." Kara's expression cycled through shock, fear, and then settled on something that looked disturbingly like defiance. "It's not that big a deal. Family visits family. That's normal." "You didn't visit me, Kara. You broke into my home while I was at work and used it like a vacation rental." "I didn't break in. I had a key made from Mom's copy months ago, back when you first moved in. I figured it was fine. We're family." I turned to my mother. "You gave her access to my key?" Mom's face was red. "She asked to borrow it to drop off a housewarming gift." "I didn't think." "No, you didn't." I turned back to Kara. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Tyler the truth, that this is my house, not yours, and that you've been lying to him. Then you're going to pay me back for everything you've stolen and used. I have an itemized list." Kara laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being dramatic. It's just some food and whatever. Tyler doesn't need to know anything. What happens between sisters stays between sisters." "We're not sisters, Kara. We're step-siblings who've never been close, and that was before you violated my home and my trust." I stood up. "You have 1 week to come clean to Tyler and pay me back. If you don't, I'm filing a police report for trespassing and theft." As I gathered my things to leave, Richard finally found his voice. "You're really going to do this? Over a few visits? That's your sister." "She's not my sister," I said calmly. "And she didn't visit. She committed multiple felonies. The only reason I'm giving her a chance to make this right is because I'm trying to minimize the damage to this family. But make no mistake, if she doesn't fix this, I will." I left to the sound of my mother crying and Kara insisting that I was totally overreacting. Update 2. Tyler gets involved, 5 days later. I didn't hear from Kara for the rest of the week. I wasn't surprised. She's never been one to take responsibility for anything. I was preparing to file my police report when I received an unexpected visitor. I was home on a rare day off, catching up on laundry and trying not to think about how I'd have to eventually face my parents again, when my doorbell rang. The new security camera showed a man I recognized from Dave's footage. "Tyler." I didn't open the door. Instead, I spoke through the intercom. "Can I help you?" "Yeah, you can explain why you're trying to cause problems between me and my girlfriend." His voice was aggressive from the start. "Kara told me you've been spreading lies, saying she doesn't really live here. I don't know what your damage is, but you need to back off." I felt a chill run down my spine. He still didn't know. Or Kara had spun some story that made me the villain. "I'm not spreading lies," I said carefully. "I'm the owner of this townhouse. Kara is my stepsister. She lives with her parents across town. She's never lived here." "Bullshit. She showed me around this place herself. She told me about the renovations she did, the hot tub she installed." "The previous owners installed the hot tub. I bought this home 14 months ago. I have the deed with my name on it. Whatever Kara told you was a lie." There was a long pause. Through the camera, I watched Tyler's expression shift from anger to confusion. "She said you were jealous," he finally said. Said you always tried to take her stuff because your mom liked her better. Classic Kara. Projecting so hard she could work at a movie theater. I can show you the deed right now if you'd like proof, I offered. I can also show you the security footage of you and Kara entering my home while I was at work. I never gave her permission to be here, and I certainly never gave her permission to bring guests. Another pause. Security footage. My neighbor has cameras. I have my own now too. I have multiple recordings of you both trespassing on my property. Tyler's face went through several complicated emotions. She said this was her place. She gave me a tour. She said, "I'm sorry you were lied to," I said, and I meant it. Whatever Kara had done, Tyler appeared to be as much a victim of her deception as I was. But I need you to leave my property now. And I need you to understand that neither you nor Kara are welcome here again. What happened next caught me off guard. Instead of leaving, Tyler's expression hardened again. "No, see, I don't believe you," he said, his voice rising. "Kara loves this place. She cried when she showed me her bedroom, talking about how proud she was. You don't fake that kind of emotion. You're the liar here, trying to steal her home because you're some bitter, lonely." "I'm calling the police now," I interrupted, already dialing. "Please leave." "This isn't over," he shouted, finally backing away from the door. "Kara's gonna prove this is hers, and you're gonna look like the psycho you are." I stayed on the line with 911 until he drove away. They dispatched an officer to take my statement, and I showed them everything: the deed, the footage, the documentation of what had been taken. The officer was sympathetic and suggested I consider a protective order if Tyler showed up again. I didn't think I'd need one. I was wrong. Update 3. The night everything escalated, 9 days after initial confrontation. The next 4 days were tense but quiet. I went to work, came home, checked my cameras religiously. Kara didn't show up. Neither did Tyler. I started to hope that maybe the message had finally gotten through. Then, at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, my doorbell rang. I was already in bed, almost asleep, when the sound jolted me awake. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the security camera feed. Tyler was on my porch. Even through the grainy night vision, I could see he was swaying. His movements were uncoordinated. He was visibly intoxicated. "Hey!" he shouted at my door, pounding on it with his fist. "Hey, I know you're in there. Open up. I need to talk to you." I didn't respond. I was already dialing 911. "You need to give me my girlfriend's key," he continued shouting. "She said you took her key. That's theft. You stole from her and now you're keeping her out of her own house." The 911 operator asked me to stay on the line. I gave them my address, explained the situation, explained that I was alone and that the man outside was intoxicated and becoming more aggressive by the second. "I know you're watching me," Tyler screamed, apparently noticing the camera. "You think you're so smart with your cameras and your lies. Kara told me everything. You're trying to steal her identity. You're trying to take her life." He kicked my door. The sound made me flinch even though I was upstairs, behind a locked bedroom door. "Open this door right now or I'm gonna break it down. I swear to God I'll—" The police arrived before he could finish that threat. I watched through my camera as 2 officers approached, watched Tyler spin around to confront them, watched him take a swing at one of the officers and miss spectacularly. They had him on the ground and in handcuffs within 30 seconds. I came downstairs to speak with the officers once Tyler was secured in the back of their cruiser. They took my statement, reviewed the camera footage from that night and the previous encounters, and strongly recommended I pursue a restraining order. "Based on what we're seeing here, this isn't going to stop on its own," one officer told me. "He's convinced himself that his girlfriend's story is true. Until he accepts reality, and sometimes that never happens, he's a threat." They arrested Tyler for public intoxication, attempted assault on an officer, and criminal threatening. He spent the night in jail. The next morning, I was at the courthouse filing for a protective order. Update 4. Legal proceedings and family fallout, 2.5 weeks after initial discovery. The emergency protective order was granted immediately based on the evidence I presented. The judge reviewed the footage of Tyler pounding on my door, his threats, his arrest. The order prohibited him from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. But I didn't stop there. I filed a police report against Kara for trespassing, criminal trespass, the first-degree kind, since she entered with intent to commit another crime, theft, and theft of property. The stolen items totaled over $400 when I added everything up: the wine, the food, the toiletries, the laundering costs for my bedding. In my state, that's misdemeanor theft. The police took my report seriously. Dave provided his footage as evidence. A detective was assigned to the case. Then the calls started. First, my mother. How could you do this to your sister? She made a mistake. Tyler's a bad influence on her, that's all. You're ruining her life over some groceries. I stayed calm. Mom, she broke into my home repeatedly, lied to her boyfriend about owning my house, and that boyfriend showed up drunk at midnight threatening to break down my door. This isn't about groceries. But pressing charges? Getting the police involved? That's so extreme. What would be extreme is if I did nothing and Tyler showed up again with more than just his fists. I'm protecting myself. I wish you could understand that. Then, Richard, you need to drop these charges. This is a family matter, not a legal matter. We can handle this ourselves. Richard, your daughter committed crimes against me. Repeatedly. Her boyfriend threatened me in my home. The time for handling this in the family was before she decided to use my house as her personal showcase. She said she just wanted to impress Tyler. She didn't mean any harm. Intent doesn't change impact. She violated my home, my trust, and my sense of safety. Actions have consequences. It's time she learned that. Richard hung up on me. I haven't heard from him since. The most surprising call came from an unknown number. It was Tyler's mother. I wanted to apologize, she said, her voice tired and embarrassed. I raised that boy to be better than this. When I heard what happened, what really happened, I was mortified. He's had problems with alcohol, problems with anger, and I think Kara knew exactly what she was doing when she spun that story for him. She used his issues against all of you. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected this. I just wanted you to know that I'm not defending him, Tyler's mother continued. He's my son and I love him, but he was wrong. And Kara, what she did to him, convincing him of a fantasy like that, it's cruel. To both of you. I thanked her for calling. She gave me her contact information in case I needed a witness statement for the restraining order hearing. The hearing was held 3 days ago. Tyler showed up with a public defender, looking remarkably more sober and significantly more subdued than the man who'd screamed at my door. Kara wasn't there. I learned later she'd been advised by her own newly acquired lawyer to stay away. The judge granted a full restraining order for 1 year. Tyler is prohibited from contacting me by any means, from coming within 500 feet of my home or workplace, and from possessing any weapons during the duration of the order. If he violates it, he faces immediate arrest and additional charges. Before he left, Tyler caught my eye across the courtroom. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked broken. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Update 5. Resolution and Aftermath. Present day. It's been 4 days since the restraining order was finalized. Here's where everything stands. Kara has been formally charged with criminal trespass and theft. Her arraignment is next week. Based on what her lawyer has communicated to the prosecutor, she's likely to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for restitution and probation. She'll have a criminal record now. According to my mother, who still calls despite everything, Kara has been devastated and can't understand why I'm doing this to her. I haven't spoken to her directly, and I don't plan to. Any contact now would have to go through lawyers anyway, which is fine by me. Tyler is dealing with his own charges from the night of his arrest: public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and attempted assault on a police officer. From what Tyler's mother has told me, we've spoken twice more since that first call. He's also finally getting help for his alcohol issues. He's in an outpatient program and has apparently ended things with Kara entirely. He told me he doesn't know who she is anymore, his mother said. The person he fell for doesn't exist. It was all built on lies. I find myself hoping he gets better. Not for Kara's sake, but for his own. My parents have stopped calling. My mother sent one final text that read, "I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed this family." I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that would make her understand, and I've stopped trying to force understanding from people who are determined to misunderstand. Richard has been silent. I suspect he's wrestling with the reality that his golden child isn't quite so golden. Or maybe he's just written me off entirely. Either way, I've made my peace with it. As for me, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I changed all my locks again, just in case. I keep my security cameras active and check them regularly, but less obsessively than before. I've started sleeping through the night again, which took longer than I expected. I've been talking to a therapist about everything: the violation, the family betrayal, the fear I felt that night Tyler showed up. She's been helping me process it all. I also did something for myself last weekend. I bought a new bottle of wine, the same vintage Kara stole, and I opened it on my back porch while watching the sunset. I sat in my hot tub, in my house, reclaiming my space one evening at a time. A few days ago, Dave came over with a casserole. "Thought you could use some home cooking," he said, looking slightly embarrassed. "My wife made it. She's been worried about you." I invited him in for coffee and we talked for over an hour. He told me stories about the neighborhood, about the families who had lived in my townhouse before me. He made me laugh for the first time in weeks. "You handled all this exactly right," he said before he left. "A lot of people would have exploded, gotten emotional, done something they'd regret. You stayed calm, you documented everything, and you let the system do its job. That takes strength. I didn't feel strong when I was crying on my defiled bed. I didn't feel strong when I was shaking behind my bedroom door while Tyler screamed threats at my front door. But maybe strength isn't about not feeling those things. Maybe it's about what you do despite feeling them. I'm not sure what the future holds with my family. Part of me hopes that time will bring perspective, that my mother will eventually see this situation for what it was. Another part of me, the part that spent years being told to keep the peace and be the bigger person while Kara faced zero consequences, knows that might never happen. And I'm learning to be okay with that. This townhouse is my home. I earned it through years of hard work and discipline. No one has the right to violate that, no matter what blood we might share or what stories they tell themselves to justify their actions. Family isn't just about genetics or legal connections. Family is about respect, trust, and the willingness to treat each other with basic human dignity. By that definition, Kara stopped being my family a long time ago. I just didn't realize it until she made it impossible to ignore. To anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, document everything. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Don't let anyone, especially family, guilt you into accepting treatment you wouldn't tolerate from a stranger. And find your own Dave. Everyone needs a neighbor who notices when things aren't right and has the courage to say something. I don't know if I'll update this again. Part of me hopes I won't need to. But I'm grateful for this space to process everything, and for everyone who takes the time to read it. This is my home. And now, finally, it feels like mine again. Edit. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and validation. A few people have asked about specific details, so I'll clarify. Yes, I got the locks changed professionally by a licensed locksmith. Yes, I have documentation that my mother gave Kara access to the spare key. No, Kara never had authorization to enter my home without me present. For those asking about the legal specifics, in my state, criminal trespass in the first degree, entering a dwelling without permission with intent to commit a crime therein, is a Class D felony. The theft charge is a misdemeanor based on the value. The prosecutor offered a plea deal to reduce the trespass charge to a lower degree in exchange for the guilty plea, which is why Kara's lawyer is recommending she take it. And to the person who said I should have just talked to her first before going nuclear, I spent 16 years talking. 16 years being told to compromise, to understand, to be the bigger person. Talking doesn't work with people who don't want to hear you. Sometimes, the only language that gets through is consequences. This was my consequence. And I don't regret it for a second.